Let's start with the latest from Jammu and Kashmir. The situation remained largely peaceful in Jammu and Kashmir overnight and in the early hours of Sunday. No new reports of ceasefire violations came either from Jammu and Kashmir or Punjab or Rajasthan. Situation seems normal in Poonch, Akhnoor and Rajouri. No drones, firings and shelling was reported during the night. Situation also seems normal in Firozpur, Punjab. Here too, no drones, firings or shelling was reported during the night. But as a precautionary measure, the Amritsar district collector has issued a red alert urging residents to stay indoors and away from windows. Meanwhile, power has been restored in Amritsar. The latest coming in from across the country is that the situation in fact is largely peaceful in Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Rajasthan and even Gujarat. That's the latest that we're picking up from our reporters on ground. No new reports of casualty or of ceasefire violation, beg your pardon, came either from J&K, Punjab, Rajasthan or Gujarat. Situation there seems normal in Poonch, Akhnoor or Rajouri. At this point, let me quickly go across to my colleague Karthik Malhotra, who joins me live in the studio. Karthik, a very good morning to you. You know, the situation there largely seems peaceful, but you know, I remember Om Puri's dialogue in Lakshya. He said, Pakistan पे कभी भरोसा मत करना, पाकिस्तानी हारे तो पलट के जरूर आता है.
You are absolutely right, and that's exactly, you know, Neha, I don't know, maybe Providence or what, but I was thinking of exactly that scene from Lakshya, and that has pretty much played out through the night. So let's take it one by one. Right now, of course, as we know, there is peace in the valley. There are cities from where we are receiving visuals. Those visuals are on our screens right now. There is peace in Akhnoor, there is peace in Firozpur, there is peace even in Pathankot now reported. Poonch, which saw shelling again yesterday, is reporting peace. We are getting shots from Jammu, the city of Jammu. Jammu is also peaceful. So overall, it seems that after those initial ceasefire violations that Pakistan had ensured late last night, you know, just 3 hours after the ceasefire was effective, starting 5 p.m. yesterday, it seems at least early morning through the night and early morning, there has been peace, there has been calm, there has been tranquility in the valley as well as in sectors in Punjab, including in Firozpur. Now, you know, I think it's important, Neha, to also put this in context of what really happened and look at the entire timeline of what we have seen and what we have, you know, tried to assimilate here on News9 as well over time. To begin with, this has been, last night was to be believed as a ceasefire violation. Comes after 4 consecutive days of action across LOC as well as action, you know, which we now have confirmed that India has gone ahead and struck a few air bases, as many as 5 of them, as well as radar stations within Pakistan. Now, soon after that, there was a meeting, there was a call between Donald Trump, and Donald Trump in his Truth Social tweet went ahead and said that he has been able to negotiate peace between India and Pakistan. Soon after that, you know, we did hear from our Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. We also heard from the soldiers who were in uniform during that conference, you know, around 6 p.m. or so last evening, that as of 5 p.m. yesterday, there has been an agreed ceasefire. And guess what happens 3 hours after that? The ceasefire lasted exactly 3 hours. Exactly 3 hours after that, from around 8 p.m. onwards, reports started trickling in of Pakistan violating ceasefire. There was heavy shelling reported in Poonch, there was heavy shelling reported in Akhnoor and multiple other sectors. In fact, Omar Abdullah had also tweeted with visuals which he had shot on his own phone camera of drones flying overhead Srinagar. So if we can have those drone visuals also on the screen for our viewers, just 3 or 4 hours into the peace fire, there was drones spotted, swarm of drones spotted over Srinagar for sure, and multiple other locations as well across the Gujarat and the Punjab borders within the country. Now, as per what we were reporting yesterday, there were instances of as many as at least 18 drones that was shot down by Indian forces. So these are visuals on your screen of yesterday, and this is Srinagar, and Srinagar, there were drones that were spotted. So you're seeing drones in the sky 4 hours after the ceasefire was announced and agreed upon. Even at DGMO to DGMO calls, we understand from our reporting that around 3:35 p.m. yesterday, before all of us heard of the ceasefire, there was a DGMO to DGMO call between Pakistan, initiated by Pakistan, responded to by the DGMO in India, agreeing to a ceasefire. But ceasefire violation is what we saw about 3 to 4 hours after that. Now, there are multiple theories which are doing the rounds here, and I think for our viewers it will be important to understand what could be some of the possible reasons for this ceasefire violation by Pakistan. One, of course, is something that we have been talking about. Pakistan being Pakistan cannot be trusted. So even if there is a pact, there is a deal, there is something which you have agreed to, Pakistan is known to break those deals and break those promises and come back and strike. So that is the first thing that one can theorize as far as the violation of ceasefire goes. The second theory, and this is all conjecture right now, all in the realm of theorization, the second theory could be that there could be perhaps some sort of a disagreement between General Asim Munir and Shehbaz Sharif. It seems that perhaps one of the theories during the rounds could be that that the Pakistan army is willingly not agreeing to the political government, the political leadership in Pakistan. And hence we saw, this misadventure again unfolding at around 8 p.m. onwards last night, 3 hours after the ceasefire, when we heard first artillery shelling, and then there was also firing, and finally the spotting of drones over a few cities in India, including over Srinagar. So that could be another theory.
Right.
The third theory could possibly also be that did the message not percolate down to the last soldier? And was the message of ceasefire not being adhered to simply because it did not reach the feet on the ground, the boots on the ground, and the soldiers were unaware of the ceasefire agreement? Well, the DGMOs had confirmed that the message has percolated down, and as of 5 p.m. there will be ceasefire, but there was no ceasefire technically. There's one more theory which could potentially be be attributed to why we heard shelling across the line of control, and this could be again maybe the terrorist camps operating from the other side of the fence in LOC did not want to listen to the Pakistan army or the Pakistan political leadership's instructions and began by the artillery shelling. And in response to perhaps that noise, Pakistan sent its drones. So these are 4 or 5 theories which are doing the rounds right now, and of course it will be very hard to assess which of these theories could be the potential reason for violation of ceasefire by Pakistan. But the fact is, Pakistan did violate the ceasefire protocol. Pakistan went ahead 3 hours after the ceasefire was announced and agreed upon, and the timeline of the ceasefire from 5 p.m. agreed upon. 3 hours after that, Pakistan did go ahead and break the ceasefire. But in better news, that lasted just a few hours. More or less, there has been calm and there has been peace and tranquility in the valley, in Punjab, in Pathankot, in Firozpur, in multiple other areas, and we are receiving and reporting those visuals. Jammu, we have seen, is peaceful. Akhnoor, we've seen, is peaceful. There is also peace in Firozpur as of this morning. There is also peace in Pathankot.
Karthik, sentiments are running quite high on social media platforms, various social media platforms. People want India to teach a lesson to Pakistan, a lesson that it won't forget for the coming generations. But having said that, war is never fought on sentiments. It is not fought on nationalism. It is fought on ground reality.
Yep.
The point here that I want to understand from you is, what should India do next?
I mean, I think what India does next is pretty much a function of what India's culture and what India's DNA and what India's political leadership stands for. At the risk of perhaps sounding a little jingoistic early morning on a Sunday, the fact of the matter, Neha, is that India has never opted for war. India has been a peace-loving country. That is India's DNA, and that is something that history tells us about India and about India's leadership over decades. India has never waged war. India has never tried to deprive another country of its sovereignty. But India has also been absolutely firm, despite being a firm and heavy-handed opposer to terrorism and violence from across the border. India has also been very measured in its response, and that is the upper diplomatic hand that India can congratulate itself for playing and has fairly successfully played, simply because even if you remember on the first night of Operation Sindoor.
And imagine that this strike came in, you know, I just remembered while you mentioned this point that Pakistan retaliated after India specifically told them that we have not hit any military installations. Our target has been the terrorist infrastructure.
Absolutely.
So what was the need to retaliate?
So see, I think very simply put, India has been very measured. India has been very, very specific and precision oriented in all the strikes that it has undertaken. To begin with, India went ahead as first phase of Operation Sindoor. India went ahead and targeted 9 terrorist targets and terrorist targets only in Pakistan. And the statement that came from India's Foreign Secretary then and India's armed forces was very clear that India has not hit any civilian targets. India has not hit any military installations or military infrastructure. India has only gone after the terror camps residing within Pakistan, residing within LOC. A total of 9 locations were locked and with precision strikes taken down. So India's response was absolutely correct, spot on. Now, what did Pakistan do in return? And India did not out of its own volition go into Pakistan territory or into LOC to strike those terror camps. India was responding to the horrific April 22nd Pahalgam attacks. And that was an act of terror against India, against Indians, against Indian civilians on Indian soil. So India was absolutely forthright in going ahead and striking those terror camps, and the messaging that India came out with was absolutely crystal clear. We are going after the terrorist camps and our war is with terror. In fact, this is something that even India's ambassador, Mr. Quatra, to an interview to CNN said in the US that India's war is against terror, and India stood by that. Now, specifically to your question, Neha, what are India's options? I think India's options yesterday were also very clear. In fact, when we saw that Pakistan has violated ceasefire, Indian forces also retaliated in equal measure. I think what is absolutely critical right now is that we have a statement on record from Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, who came live at 12 midnight between yesterday and today, the intermittent midnight between last night and today. He came on record at 12 midnight and confirmed that there has been violation of ceasefire by Pakistan. I don't know if we have Vikram Misri's latest bite cut already, if he can listen in to what Vikram Misri said at midnight.
Right. In fact, what we are getting for all our viewers is Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, who has said that Indian forces had been directed to give a firm response to any further ceasefire breaches along the line of control and the international border. He called upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The earlier announcement there of ceasefire by the Foreign Secretary came shortly after US President Trump said India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire after talks mediated by the United States. Like my colleague Karthik said, let's quickly take a listen to the Foreign Secretary.
There have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility.
Imagine, Karthik, you know, even after all this, we are telling Pakistan to take appropriate steps to stop these violations, address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The key word being responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely, Neha. But again, you know, like we've been discussing for the last few minutes, it's very difficult to understand Pakistan's DNA and believe that Pakistan would have a change of heart. I think that is wishful thinking by whoever seems to be thinking that. It's certainly not me who's thinking that. But to expect Pakistan to change its heart and go ahead and listen to every deal and every instruction and every request is going to be absolutely foolhardy. And I think India is much smarter than that. So having said that, I think, you know, last evening after the violation of ceasefire, Indian forces were on alert again. The drones that were coming into Indian territory were taken down, they were shot down. And in general, what we saw was this level of preparedness that Indian armed forces had, India's air defenses had. India did not let its guard down. And that seemed to be, again something that saved the day and saved the night for India last night after we saw these violations by Pakistan. Pakistan, on its own accord, has gone ahead and thanked countries which have supported Pakistan in this critical hour. Not surprising, it has named Qatar and Saudi Arabia, with which it has massive trade deals. It has also gone ahead and thanked Turkey. And remember, Turkey is the country which has been supplying Pakistan with those drones which have been intruding into Indian airspace, trying to create panic, trying to create havoc, and also trying to explode on Indian soil, Indian territory, and causing harm to. Thankfully, our air defenses have been up and we haven't seen any damage thanks to those swarms of drones which have been unleashed by Pakistan on Indian territory. And thankfully, India did not let its guard down during the night. But Pakistan, interestingly, in addition to thanking Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, also went ahead and thanked China. And the statement, Neha, is very, very interesting because Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif went on record and said that there is, we cannot not mention China, and China at a critical time like this is not thinking about profit and loss. So, you know, that profit and loss statement is absolutely critical because it seems that China has been supplying arms, ammunition and whatever else Pakistan has needed in these last 4 days at least, if not prior to that, has been done perhaps without consideration of money. And that statement is quite telling that China has cooperated without thinking about profit or loss. Now, China, on its own accord, has also gone ahead and mentioned officially that China stands with Pakistan for Pakistan to protect its own sovereignty. So there is this sort of a collusion which is now brewing between Pakistan and China, and it seems that this is something that India must take note of, that global powers must also take note of. At the same time, US, of course, has gone ahead and with its majority vote in IMF, gone ahead and passed that $1 billion grant to Pakistan already.
And so